This 2014, what a wonderful event to take place. We welcome you into these chambers for the swearing in of the newly elected and re-elected members of council. This being the day and hour fixed by the Act of Assembly of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania and the Pittsburgh Home Rule Charter for the organization of the Council of the City of Pittsburgh, this meeting of the 138th Council will be in order. For those who can stand, please stand for the color guard presented by the University of Pittsburgh Army ROTC, who will escort our newly elected and re-elected members of council and the mayor-elect, William Peduto, into the chambers. Again, please remain standing. The Pledge of Allegiance, the singing of the national anthem, and the Negro National Anthem, followed by the invocation. Today, the Pledge of Allegiance will be presented by Sergeant First Class James Bell, University of Pittsburgh Army ROTC. To the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The singing of the national anthem will be sung by 3TG, Three Talented Girls.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleam, whose bright stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave for the land of the free and the home of the brave?
We will now have the singing of the Negro National Anthem, which will be sung by Miss Gloria Sheffield.
past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that our present has brought us, facing the rising sun of a new day begun. Let us march on till victory is won.
We will now have Rabbi Ron Simmons of Temple Sinai to give the invocation.
On this day of inauguration, our vision is set on days yet to come. We dream of a new era for Pittsburgh, an era in which the members of City Council, both newly elected and returning, will work with one another, the office of the mayor, and all branches of city, county, and state government for the good of all the citizens of Pittsburgh. May the work of this council inspire us all to make the description of Pittsburgh as the most livable city a reality within the terms of these council members. Our vision is certainly set on the future. But even as we dream of those days, we pause to look back at the lessons learned from those upon whose shoulders we stand. The Home Rule Charter of the City of Pittsburgh defines a responsible city. A responsible city is one which expects aggressive action from its officials towards the achievement of dignified housing, useful employment, pure air and water, efficient transportation, excellent education, health, safety, recreation, and culture, and the other conditions conducive to human growth. It is one which provides equal protection of the law for all citizens, with no one denied the enjoyment of civil, economic, or political rights, or discriminated against in the exercise thereof because of race or color, creed or national origin, age, handicap, or sex. A responsible city is one where all citizens have reasonable access to records and officials, and where police power is under civil direction at all times. May these characteristics of a responsible city guide the members of this council. Be aggressive in ensuring the dignity of every citizen with no regard to your own personal gain. Be aggressive in protecting the lawful rights of all citizens, not just those from your district, no matter the color of their skin, their place of worship, their economic standing, or other factors that celebrate the diversity of this city. Be aggressive in providing equal access to all at every level of government, from the grandeur of this council chamber to the hills and valleys of Highland Park and Brighton Heights, Squirrel Hill and Polish Hill, the Duquesne Heights and the Southside Flats, and all neighborhoods in between. Some 2,800 years ago, Isaiah prophesied, "Woe to those who make unjust laws, to those who issue oppressive decrees, to deprive the poor of their rights and withhold justice from the oppressed of my people, making widows their prey and robbing the fatherless." Spoken to the political leaders of his day, Isaiah spoke words that I speak today to you. May this council be the defender of the most vulnerable in our community. May justice never be usurped. May personal gain never take precedence over communal good. For you, the members of the City Council, and all those with whom you work, I pray that all these aspirations for what Pittsburgh can become will be turned into realities because of the desires of your hearts, the prowess of your minds, and the work of your hands. And in turn, may these realities bring all of us blessings here in Pittsburgh, as together we say, Amen.
I'd like to welcome Mayor-elect William Peduto up to the podium, please. You may all be seated. A special thank you to all those who have just participated in the beginning of this wonderful program for the swearing in of council. I thank the three talented girls, Mrs. Sheffield, Rabbi Ron Simmons, and of course, the color guard of the University of Pittsburgh Army ROTC. They did a wonderful job. Our next order of business will be the presentation of the certificates of election. I call upon the clerk to please read the certificates. Got ahead of myself. Yeah, okay.
Council Bill Number 1, Certificate of Election from the Bureau of Elections certifying that at the election held on the 5th day of November 2013, Teresa Cale Smith, having received 3,980 votes, was duly elected to the office of member of Pittsburgh City Council, District 2, for a term of 4 years. Also, Council Bill Number 2, Certificate of Election from the Bureau of Elections certifying that at the election held on the 5th day of November 2013, Natalia Rudiak, having received 4,049 votes, was duly elected to the office of member of Pittsburgh City Council, District 4, for a 4-year term. Also, we have Council Bill Number 3, Certificate of Election from the Allegheny County Board of Elections certifying that at the election held on the 5th day of November 2013, Robert Daniel Laval, having received 2,889 votes, was duly elected to the office of member of Pittsburgh City Council, District 6, for a 4-year term. And finally, we have Council Bill Number 4, Certificate of Election from the Bureau of Allegheny County Elections certifying that at the election held on the 5th day of November 2013, Dan Gilman, having received 4,211 votes, was duly elected to the office of the member of Pittsburgh City Council, District 8, for a 4-year term.
Thank you. The next order of business will be the oath of office and remarks by the members. We are honored this morning to have the Honorable Randy Martini, Magisterial District Judge, who will administer the oath of office to Councilwoman Teresa Cale Smith from Council District 2. Councilwoman, would you like to bring your family up with you? Right up here. Mm-hmm.
No, most of my family's not here. That's why I told them they can come up. So, I grew up in a home with 17 people in it, so it gives you some idea how large my family is. And these are my sister-in-laws. And this is my son, TJ, and my husband, Tom. Okay. Right here. Does TJ and Tom hold the Bible? Can TJ and Tom hold the Bible? Okay.
Good morning. I'd just like to say that I'm very proud and honored to be here today to administer the oath of office to my dear friend, Teresa Cale Smith, the hardest working councilwoman here in the city of Pittsburgh. She does a fine job from morning till night, and I can just say that I'm so proud to be here when she asked me to administer this oath today. I, Teresa Cale Smith,
Teresa Cale Smith,
do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and this state
and this state
and the Charter of this city,
and the Charter of this city.
and I will faithfully discharge
the duties of office
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Councilwoman, would you like to take the podium and do it from up here? Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. I loved your speech. Okay, you guys can sit down. Thank you. Except for my son, TJ, he might want to stay up here a little bit. I don't know. I told Deb Gross that TJ was the youngest of all of our children in City Council until she came along with a 6-year-old. So I just want to thank Judge Martini for his swearing in. It was so exciting to me to have Randy because I've known the family for a very long time, and I was very thankful that he was able to make it here today. And for those of you who may not know, and I hope you don't mind me saying this, but Judge Martini is recovering from a transplant surgery that his son Nick had given him a kidney. So we are so thankful that you're here today, not only for this, but that you're here and you're doing well. Thank you. And I just want to thank God for giving me the opportunity to serve the residents of District 2 in the entire city of Pittsburgh. I can never have imagined that I would be here one day. And I want to acknowledge some of the folks that have really helped us. I want to thank the 20th and 28th Ward and 19th Ward Democratic committees, the ward chairman, Dan Deasy. I'd like to thank him. He was the person who vacated the seat, and I fulfilled his unexpired term, so I want to thank him for that, for supporting me and helping me along the way. And I want to thank the Democratic Ward Chairman Bob Palmasina, Cheryl Bodner, and Pete Wagner, and their committee members for their continued support. And I also want to thank Nick Martini, Tom Palmasina, Bob Palmasina, Rob Kazarowski, and Lauren Morabello for all the work that they did on our campaign and to help us seek this re-election. I really have to thank and acknowledge my staff. They have been they're just a great team to work for. They are loyal, they're very dedicated. I think we have one of the best constituents response teams in the city, and I want to thank them for all the work that they did. I know that Lori and Kim Lastina and Wanda and Gino. So we have Lori Morabello, Kim Salametro, so our chief of staff, Gino Palmasina, is he here? Gino here? And Wanda Spencer, she's here somewhere. So I just want to thank all of them for the work that they've done. And we've also had several other folks in our office, Heather Kazarowski, Solomon Prater, Chuck Wallace, Johanna Murphy, Nick Martini as well, who've worked over the years to make sure that we were getting a lot of things done in our community. When I was first elected, my speech included a lot of the things that we'd like to do and where we'd like to go. This speech is more thanking all those people that helped us get to some of the places and some of the accomplishments that we were able to accomplish over the years. I want to thank the unions for their support. My husband's a union member, so make sure I thank the unions for their support, not only on my campaign, but for your work in the city of Pittsburgh. I want to thank our community leaders who volunteer so much time in our community. I think no one appreciates a community volunteer more than we do in our district. We have 16 neighborhoods, and our volunteers give out a tremendous amount of time. Gina, we actually lost a very good volunteer, Gina Turner, who passed away, lost her battle with cancer this past month. And so we offer our condolences to her family. But I'd like to thank Bessie Miller, Sam Palambini, and all the volunteers that work so hard, Ginny Croft, Terry Miner. There's just a whole list of folks. I couldn't possibly name all the volunteers, but I want to thank them all for their work in District 2. I want to thank the current administration and all the directors for their hard work and all that they have helped us to accomplish in District 2. I think folks know that I have a very close relationship with Director Kazarowski, Bob Palmasina, and Director Huss and others, and I just have to say there's so many people that have really pitched in to help us accomplish a lot in District 2, and we have accomplished a lot in District 2. We have a new stadium in District 2, the Highmark Stadium. We have a new deck hockey rink in Banksville. We have so many projects that Sheridan store is coming, New Market in Sheridan. So there's a lot of things happening in District 2, and we don't always do a good job of doing our own PR and letting people know what all the work that we're doing in our community. But I think you're starting to see that there's more and more interest in the West End and more things coming to our district. So I couldn't do those things if it were not for the directors and the employees of the city of Pittsburgh who have put in a tremendous amount of hours and are available 24/7 to make sure that we're getting things done in our community. I can tell you this is not because I was elected. This is not unique to my situation. I have had this relationship with these folks for years when I ran the Athletic Association in the community, volunteered at the schools. Anytime we need anything for years, 20 to 30 years, these people have worked this hard for that long. So I just want to acknowledge them. I need to thank my family. Some of them are here today. Most of them I actually told to stay home because of the weather. So I don't want to worry about their health, and they're getting in with the icy conditions. But I can tell you that I come from a family with that volunteerism was huge, and so and it continues. We have a very large family, as I mentioned earlier, and I think if it had not been for the way that we were raised to always constantly be giving, I don't think I would be here today. But I especially have to thank my husband, Tom, and our children. My family gives up the most for me to hold this position. My husband not only gives up his personal money generously, right, Tom? But he also helps those in need with his personal time. He cuts grass, shovels snow, attends events, and even cares for a family, and this is the real killer. They called during Snowmageddon and needed some help shoveling snow. My husband has gone down there every year since Snowmageddon, and they don't even live in my district. So I want to thank him for everything that he does for our community. It just mattered that he saw somebody in need, and he responded. So, Tom, I thank you so much for everything you've done. I think people were surprised when I talk nice to you, because I'm usually yelling at you about something. But I want to thank you for everything that you've done. I want to thank my children. My daughter, Nicole, has given birth to 2 children since I've been in office, and so there's been times when I know that she would rather just sit back, but she's always been very helpful in doing things in the community and helping me with anything we need. And our eldest son, Stephen, served in the Navy during my time in service or during my time here in council, and his wife is currently serving in the Middle East. So I want to send them our prayers and blessings and say that they've never forgotten their commitment to their family here in Pittsburgh, even though they were serving our country. So I want to thank them for everything that they have done in their very unique ways of showing that they care. So but I want to thank my son, TJ. TJ, where are you? Stand up. Stand up. My son, TJ, everyone thinks this is the person who may run for my seat one day when I decide to walk away, but I'm telling you, no way. My sisters have already threatened him, so he won't be running for anything. But I can tell you, my son, TJ, was working on his own degree. He's in environmental science. He has his environmental science degree, and he was working on that. And even though he was working on that, and most college-age students are very self-absorbed in a lot of things that of course are important to them at their time, but he has always made time to volunteer, planting gardens in our district, attending events, doing all sorts of things. So he's never missed the opportunity to volunteer and to support us in any way that he can. And TJ, thank you very much. And I just have to say how much I love my family, my entire family, my sisters, my brothers, everyone, my husband, my sons, and my daughter, and my grandchildren. I have to say that I think that our parents have left us such a legacy of volunteerism. I think that it will continue for so many years. That I'm so proud of what they have taught us, and so proud to have it to teach my children, and so proud that my grandchildren are learning as well, and so proud that it's going to continue. And I just want to say, Mayor Peduto and our colleagues, we have a lot of work to do, and I'm excited to work with each and every one of you. I want to congratulate the new incoming members and thank the returning members and the members that have been here for so long who've taught me a lot. So. And I'm looking forward to working with all of you again and thinking that we're going to do great things for the city of Pittsburgh and for our residents, and we're going to make sure that we're putting them first. And I want to thank Mayor Peduto for reaching out immediately after his election, and I'm looking forward to working with him and making sure that we continue the success in District 2. And I just want to thank everyone, and God bless you. Thank you.
Congratulations, Councilwoman Cale Smith. Next, we have the Honorable Eleanor Bush, Judge, Court of Common Pleas, who will administer the oath of office to Councilwoman-elect Natalia Rudiak from Council District 4. Would you like to bring your family up? Would you like to bring your family up?
I would like to ask my family to come on up. Good morning. Good morning. What an honor it is for me
to have my first official act as a judge be to administer the oath of office to you. You're an inspiring leader for our community, and congratulations on your reelection.
Thank you.
Left hand.
Are you going to hold it?
And raise your right hand. I, Natalia Rudiak,
I, Natalia Rudiak,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and of this state
and of this state
and the Charter of this city,
and the Charter of this city,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of office
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of this office
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Oh boy, I wasn't nervous until I actually put my right hand up. You really start to feel the weight of the office. Well, today is the day that we have been waiting for. I can hardly believe that it has been 4 years since I've been standing up at this podium. While time has passed, what has brought us together and what keeps us together are our shared values of justice and equality and freedom, and these values are forever solid and unwavering. Such is also the support of my family, who were just up here. My parents, Helena and John, my Aunt Barbara Rudiak and Raymond Garys, and my uncle Mike Rudiak. Your support and commitment has been so steady and resolute. And to this day, I still get people who tell me that they met my sister while she was knocking on doors. Thank you, Mom. And to all our family and friends, the work that you have done to put our campaign, as well as our communities, take them to our very best, have really helped to take our city as a whole to the next level. I also want to thank my family who could not be here today, who may be watching online. Hello. 4 years ago, I spoke of my Polish grandmother who barely finished 2nd grade before our family's village was occupied by the Nazis, and she was forced to drop out of school. She actually passed away 3 years ago without me being able to say goodbye. But I will never forget her legacy and the struggle of my family and all of our families to find freedom and democracy and peace in this land, in our home, our beloved United States, and our beloved Pittsburgh. 4 years ago, we looked towards Congress and our president to be the hope and change we have been waiting for. But today, our national leaders are more polarized than ever. And so we have turned our energy inwards, into ourselves and into our city. 4 years ago, I said that we must tackle our collective challenges with a zeal that is unmatched and a vigor that is unparalleled. 4 years ago, I issued a challenge that said, Pittsburgh needs a reawakening, and all of us here today must lead it. And I have to say, Pittsburgh, you have delivered. Workers, seniors, young people, neighborhood volunteers, you are standing up for fair wages, healthy communities, equitable development, safe schools, and renewed main streets. And it is because of you and because of my colleagues, both returning and new, as well as our mayor-elect, that the American dream is being reborn in the next great American city. And that next great American city is Pittsburgh. 4 years ago, when I stood in this chamber, the people of South Pittsburgh had lost hope. We had all felt neglected and left behind. And today, South Pittsburgh, we are finally on the map, literally. I know we have a lot of work to do together, and I would not be here if I was not dedicated to raising up our communities as far as we can go. But from the camaraderie built at the Carrick Overbrook Block Watch to the first nonprofit coffee house in the city in Beachview, South Pittsburgh is showing that together we can. From the facelift of Brookline Boulevard to the programming at the Acomando Center of Overbrook, we are showing the world that together we can and we will rebuild South Pittsburgh. And from Polish Hill to Perry Hilltop, I never encountered a neighborhood leader who was not willing to lend a hand and offer words of wisdom and support. For far too long, our neighborhoods have competed against each other. But I have seen again and again that our city works best when we work together. And I pledge to you today to continue collaborating across boundaries that have been set up by others to divide and to conquer. Together, we can all take ownership over our city. We have shown that it can be done. And 4 years ago, I had just come off a campaign, and I had heard that the road in governing and politics was a lonely one. But today, I realized that running for office had an unintended consequence for me and my family. That running for office, in fact, grew my family, and that is Pittsburgh. Courage comes from the Latin word cor, meaning heart, and the original definition was to speak one's mind by telling all of one's heart. It is through sharing what is in our hearts, our fears, our personal stories, our hopes, and our dreams, that we grow closer together. And the time that we spend in these chambers, in church basements and fellowship, in school auditoriums and in community gardens, these are times when my heart truly feels full. And I thank God for the people of Pittsburgh who have allowed me the privilege to continue to serve our city with honor and respect. Thank you for the community leaders who continue to serve our neighborhoods with love and affection. We are family. And speaking of family and folks that we often spend more time with than our own family members, I would like to issue a heartfelt thanks to all of my staff who is back there watching. Ashley Deemer, Dan Barrett, Adam Shuck, and in the past we've also had John Fournier, Judy Hale-Reed, Nicole Kubitsky, and Alex Pajukanix. I've also had amazing campaign staff, Matt and John, Simone, Kate, and Lauren, who just worked excruciatingly hard, sometimes 16-hour days, to get to where we are today. I will close with some words that were actually spoken by the Congresswoman Barbara Jordan, who was the first African-American woman to ever address a Democratic National Convention in 1976. She issued an inspiring challenge to the nation that I believe deserves to be adapted to our city today. She said, "Are we to be one people bound together by common spirit, sharing in a common endeavor, or will we become a divided city? For all of its uncertainty, we cannot flee the future. We must address and master the future together. It can be done if we restore the belief that we share a sense of urban community, that we share a sense of a common urban endeavor. It can be done. In Pittsburgh, we have come so far and we have so far to go, but we have already shown that together it can be done." Thank you.
Yeah.
Congratulations, Councilwoman Rudiak. The next, we will have with us the Honorable Joseph Williams, Judge, Court of Common Pleas, who will administer the oath of office to Councilman-elect Robert Daniel Lavelle from Council District 6.
I take pride in administering this oath to Daniel because he best reflects the character and sense of justice which Rabbi Simmons alluded to. You want to raise your hand? Turn it. Right hand. Hold it. Hold it, please.
Okay, I got it. Go ahead.
I, R. Daniel Lavelle,
I, R. Daniel Lavelle,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
of the United States and this state,
of the United States and this state,
and the Charter of this city,
and the Charter of this city,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
that I will faithfully discharge the duties
of this office to the best of my ability.
of this office to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
What I'll do is I'll get it sealed. Okay?
Appreciate it. Thank you. Good morning. I admittedly, until maybe late yesterday, I hadn't really given consideration to the fact that I had to really give remarks. And so I was up most of last night trying to think through what I would have to say. Didn't come up with a whole lot, but I did jot some notes down. So I'll be very brief this morning. First, a number of thank yous. First and foremost, to all those that supported me on the campaign trail and that assisted in my reelection. Obviously, I would not be here without you. Also, to my staff. I think all my colleagues would admit that to a certain extent, we're only as good as those that we have supporting us. And I unfortunately admit that I probably pay them less than what they're worth, but that they come to work every single day to do a noble job, and they do it on behalf of the city. And they don't really get the accolades that we as a council member get. So I just want to take a moment and thank them for all that they've put in. In addition, I would also like to thank what I would consider friends and extended family. And what I mean by that is when I look around and see individuals like Brenda Tate sitting in the back, and Reverend Grayson and Reverend Grigsby here to my right, and Sala Udine and Jackie and many others, the reality is when people talk about who you are and what you've come to be, you're often influenced by a lot of individuals. And all these friends and extended family have come to influence who I am today. And I want to thank you for being there for me and for your continued support. Thank you very much. And then to my family, my direct family. I have wonderful parents who have been there since the very beginning and who have supported my career endeavors and who continue to support me, whether I need to call at the very last minute and ask for babysitting services or some other feature. They're there to assist as well as knock on doors or do whatever it takes. And so I thank you all for that. And then to my wife, admittedly, I probably don't say thank you enough at home, but the reality is, in this position, in this job, I often spend many hours away from home in the evenings or on a Saturday when I got to get up and run. And she's there to take care of the children and make sure they grow up. And so I just want to publicly say thank you as well. And then to the constituents of District 6, thank you all. You have elected me to do a job on your behalf,
And I stand here very proud and humbled to do that job. And I look forward to working with you. I've always had an open door policy. Even within the constituency, we don't necessarily always agree, but I'm always willing to have a conversation, to meet anyone, anywhere, at any point in time, to figure out how to best move the district as well as the city forward. And then lastly, let me just say, as I actually laid awake last night trying to think through what I was going to say, my mind kept going back to a previous conversation I had 4 years ago with my grandfather. It was actually the very last conversation I had with him before he passed. And as he lay in his bed, he was having a conversation, we were having a conversation, and he was critiquing President Obama. As he was, if anyone ever knew him, he was a very opinionated man. And he had a continued opinion. And he was doing a lot of fussing, but he was also trying to bring that critique to my new position that I was now in. And after he was sort of saying what was wrong, I asked him, well, what should be done? And his words then were that we should shoulder our responsibilities and encourage and teach others how to do the same. And as I thought about that a little bit this morning and what that really meant in terms of government, and I think about how it was probably said a little more from an educational standpoint via our Constitution, is to promote the general welfare of all those that we represent. And so I would just ask that my colleagues sort of keep that framework in mind as we move down this road over the course of the next year, 2, 3, and 4, that we keep the notion that we're here to serve and promote the general welfare afoot. And what I mean by that is when we look at development, and I've always been a huge advocate for development, even as we look at the future redevelopment of the Lower Hill. I've said from day one, for me, this is not about bricks and mortar. The bricks and mortar are a means to an end. And the end is a new economic reality for the community that I serve, a new economic reality for those that sit here in this room. And for me, this is not about finding ways to sort of give things out. Oftentimes when members promote legislation or advocate certain ways, there are those who may view it as sort of just a handout, a give back. And that's not what this is about at all. When I think about shouldering one's responsibility, the role of government is to ensure that all those in this room and outside of this room have that general welfare, can live a better life, can put food on the table, can have a family-sustaining job for their and theirs. And so that's what I'll be advocating for over the course of the next 4 years. I believe that's what I've been doing for the previous 4, but that'll be even more ramped up when we look at development, when we look at the legislation that'll come down. And so I would just ask that my colleagues and all those within the city keep that framework in mind, that we have to invest in the least among us in order for this city to ever truly be great and truly be the most livable for all. With that, thank you.
And lastly, we have with us the Honorable Hugh McGough, Magisterial District Judge, who administered the oath of office to Councilman-elect Dan Gilman from Council District 8.
Good morning. I'm pleased and honored to play a small role in this important and historic day, not only for Dan Gilman, but for the city of Pittsburgh. In contrast to the other city councilors who took their oaths today, Dan is brand new to elective office. He is not, however, new to this building, new to public service, nor due to the hard work that lies before him serving the city of Pittsburgh on Pittsburgh City Council. He comes with the heart, the head, and the smarts to do the city proud and his parents proud. We welcome Barbara and Fred Gilman, who are going to hold the good book while Dan takes his oath of office. Dan, please come forward. Repeat after me. I, Dan Gilman,
I, Dan Gilman,
do solemnly swear
that
I will support the Constitution of the United States
I will support the Constitution of the United States
and of this state
and of this state
and the Charter of this city,
and the Charter of this city,
and I will faithfully discharge
and I will faithfully discharge
the duties of office
the duties of office
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God. Unlike my good friend Councilman Lavelle, I've been thinking about this for 7 months, so. It's still brief, though, I promise. It's still brief, but it was not last night. Thank you so much to everyone for coming today. It is truly a humbling honor and privilege to serve the people of Pittsburgh. I would like to thank the over 1,500 people that knocked on a door, made a phone call, hosted a house party, or donated to my campaign. I'd like to thank my incredible campaign team, Matt Merriman-Preston, Dan Vitanovitz, and Nikki Liu, as well as my new council staff, Eric Strasburger, Jody Hirsch, and Laura Sullivan. I'd like to thank the staff of the City Clerk's office and City Council, as well as the members of Council who have served as friends and colleagues over the past decade. I'd like to thank our soon-to-be new mayor, Bill Peduto. I first came to Bill as a 20-year-old college student, asking him to save the 28X from being cut. He offered me an internship, and 11 years later, we have not left each other's side. He has been a friend and mentor every step of the way. I'd like to thank my girlfriend, Amanda, who has been a pillar of support through a crazy year of campaigning and transition. I also want to thank my family, my sister, Michelle, and brother-in-law, Rich, my brothers, Jonathan and David, and sister-in-law, Jamie, my nieces and nephew, all of whom provided time, financial support, and most importantly, moral support through the whole process. Lastly, my parents, Barbara and Fred. I would not be standing here today if not for their continued love, their support, and sacrifices for 31 years. There are no words to express my love and appreciation. I ran for public office because I believe that Pittsburgh is the greatest city in the world. However, there is more that can be done. I believe in a city that promotes equality for all, regardless of race, gender, ethnicity, or sexual preference. I believe in a city that should be most livable for all, not just a segment of the population. I believe in a city where people get paid enough that when they put in an honest, hard-working 8-hour day, they should go home to their families with health care, money to pay the rent, and money to put food on the table. I believe in a city where our neighborhoods are home to a third place, not just a place to work and a place to live, but that special third place, a place where communities come together, a place where kids can play, a place where people can worship, a place where people can find compassionate support. I believe in a city that values education, a city that believes every child should receive a full education, beginning with the pre-K. I believe in a city that uses data and not politics to make decisions. I believe in a city that uses modern technology to improve the way we provide our services to the city's taxpayers. I believe in a city that values and respects the hard work and sacrifice of our city employees, a sacrifice of their privacy, many times a salary, and their family time due to their love and passion for this great city. I believe in a city that creates partnerships with universities, hospitals, foundations, and corporations to all work together to create a vibrant and sustainable future. I believe in a city that recognizes that all development should honor the 3 Ps: profit for developer, people that are well paid and protected from negative impacts, and a planet that is protected from pollution and unsustainable practices. Quite frankly, I believe in Pittsburgh. Thank you so much.
Now being that our newly elected and re-elected members of council have been duly sworn in, the clerk will please call the roll.
Reverend Burgess.
Here.
Mr. Gilman.
Here.
Ms. Gross. Here. Mrs. Harris.
Here.
Mr. Kraus.
Here.
Mr. Lavelle.
Here.
Mr. O'Connor.
Here.
Ms. Rudiak.
Here.
Mrs. Smith.
Here.
9 members present.
That's wonderful. The 138th Council of the City of Pittsburgh. The next order of business will be the nomination and election of the President of Council. What is your pleasure? Councilman O'Connor?
Madam Clerk, it is my honor to nominate Councilman Bruce Kraus to be our next president.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Bruce Kraus has been nominated. Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? There being no other nominations, the nominations are closed. We will now have a roll call for the nomination of Councilman Bruce Kraus as Pittsburgh City Council President.
Reverend Burgess.
No.
Mr. Gilman.
Aye.
Ms. Gross.
Aye.
Mrs. Harris.
Here.
Mr. Kraus.
Aye.
Mr. Lavelle.
Aye.
Mr. O'Connor.
Aye.
Ms. Rudiak.
Aye.
Mrs. Smith.
Aye.
Ayes 7, noes 2.
Councilman Bruce Kraus has been elected City Council President. Councilman? Yes, yes. And who will swear you in?
I need someone to swear me in.
Ah, who do we have?
Please tell me that Judge Gene Riccardi is somewhere in the house. Where is he? Judge Gene Riccardi.
Okay.
Everybody here, I'm sure, knows our former councilman, now a magisterial district judge, and my very dear friend, Judge Gene Riccardi. It would be an absolute honor if you could come up and administer the oath after you work the room. You gotta love him. So my mother's here today. Come up, please, and stand with us, please. And you can hold the Bible if you would. And Judge Riccardi, if you'll come up. I am. Come up, please. This is my mother, Dolly Kraus. Soon to be, I'm sure she won't be mad at me if I do this, soon to be 81 years old. Yeah. Works 5 days, lives alone, still drives, probably the most independent person that I know in my life. And so thank you for being here. And Judge? Congratulations. Thank you. Thank you. Where do you need me to be?
Let me first say it's truly an honor and privilege to administer the oath of office to my good friend, Bruce Kraus, as president of this esteemed legislative body. So congratulations.
Thank you, Judge. Yes, you're going to hold that.
Thank you, Linda.
Right.
Yes. Bruce, I want to make sure we hear you.
Okay. Thank you.
Please be.
Judge.
I, Bruce Kraus,
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and of this Commonwealth
and of this Commonwealth
and the Charter of this city
and the Charter of this city,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of President of City Council
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of the Council of President of Council,
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, God.
Thank you.
Huh? Yeah.
I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
I am so proud of you.
Thank you.
Are you going to say
Yes. Okay. Thank you. Really, thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
Madam Clerk, do I bring this to you?
Do I do? Okay.
And it is our honor to welcome Councilman Bruce Krause to the podium. You will now take over.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Yes, well, thank you. Wow, thank you. It's been 6 years since I've been here, and I am still awestruck by the majesty of this room. Don't cry. You're going to make me cry. I'm still awestruck by the majesty of this room and of this process and of these procedures that we engage in this formal transition of power. I am awestruck by the quality of the membership of this body, and I am proud to call you colleagues and comrades and friends. And I thank you for your vote of confidence in me to lead this body, especially at the exciting time that is Pittsburgh today. I'm going to bring Mayor-elect Bill Peduto. You're going to make a few remarks. It's on the program. And I'm going to call him Bill for the last time, because in about another hour and a half, I'll be calling him Mr. Mayor. But for now, I'll call him my friend Bill. Mayor-elect Bill Peduto.
Nice to see you. So I'll be very brief because I got to read my speech and still don't have it like down pat. I didn't walk through that door today. I didn't sit up on this podium. I sat with my staff. I haven't even sat behind the desk yet because right now I'm unemployed. First time in 19 years I'm not a member of the city's workforce. So I'm not the mayor, and I'm just up here representing, at this time, Mayor Ravensdahl. To the members of council, I've had the honor of serving with each of you. The duties that this body holds, the responsibilities and the opportunities are limitless. They're only up to you and how much you want to push it. Go forward greatly. Do great things. Look at this city and not just what's there, but the opportunities that are abound. Darlene, and I'm just looking at you right now, thank you for your service as council president. Thank you for what you taught to me about humanity. We just this weekend worked on a new policy that during this cold spell, animal control will be out looking for pets that are outside, and we're going to take them and partner with the Animal Rescue League so that they're not out there and they're going to be held for free. Thank you for teaching me about that compassion of treating everyone as that way. To all of you, we're going to have new policies with the homeless. Our police will be out starting this afternoon looking for the homeless to take them to 626 Smithfield, to give them an opportunity to get off the streets today to take care of, at least, and to our own workforce. We're going to suspend refuse collection for one day so our workers aren't facing frostbite in the early morning of tomorrow. That's the city we can build together. a city of compassion, a city with a heart, a city that's in transformation, that doesn't forget what it was. We're the city of Mr. Rogers, right? Let's take it from there. Let's work together. Let's do great things. Thank you, Mr. President.
At this time, I would like to acknowledge our returning members that are here to serve again for another 4 years. Councilwoman Rudiak, Councilwoman Smith, Councilman Lavelle, and a special shout out to Gilman. Now, Councilman Dan Gilman, our newest member of the body. I'm so very, very happy to have you here. We have so many dignitaries, electeds, and special guests that it'd be impossible to recognize everyone. And for the sake of brevity and the fact that we have a swearing in taking place in about 90 minutes, and I know everyone wants to make certain that we get there, I'm going to ask our electeds from federal, state, county, local, our judicial branch of government, all of our special guests and friends, would you please stand so we may recognize you at once in unison. Madam President, I want to thank you for your time of service. I have had the honor of sharing serving, I guess I should say, with you as Council President, and also with Councilman Doug Shields, who I see in the back of the room there. At least he was there for a moment. There he is. Thank you, Doug. And I have much to learn in this position, and I will hope that I can call on both of you for needed advice and any help that you can give me as I find my legs in this position. I would like to make just a couple brief remarks. Like Councilman Lavelle, I had things going through my head and just could not find a way to verbalize them or put them down on paper. Judy Hackle, good morning. Thank you for being here. So I came up with this because all morning long I've had a song stuck in my head. Have you ever got a song stuck in your head and no matter what you do, you can't get rid of it? And this morning in my head playing over and over and over and over again is a song called It May Be Winter Outside, but in my heart it's spring. And what I think about today and the promise of what today means for the city of Pittsburgh, it is spring in our hearts. It may be the coldest day that the city has seen in the last, I think, 10 to 20 years. But in our hearts, it is spring. Because we are experiencing a true and genuine rebirth of the city of Pittsburgh. We are celebrating renewal. We are celebrating rebirth and renewal, and the fact that life goes on. Life is constant and life is consistent, and life is never ending. What a great day for the city of Pittsburgh to be swearing in our 60th mayor of the city of Pittsburgh, Bill Peduto. I couldn't be any happier. I could not be any happier. We have this wonderful, esteemed body, the new members here, that are here to serve, as competent as any council that I have ever seen assembled. I am proud to call you my friends. I am proud to call you my colleagues. And I'm proud to call you my friends. Bill, you know that my door has always been open. Your door has always been open, and that will remain. That won't change. I understand how very important Bill and I understand how very important it is to be an independent body, to do the job that we were put here to do, and at the same time keep the doors open between both sides of the hall to have a true cooperative relationship. And that, I think, excites me more than anything today. We will be a body that is independent, that will do the job that we are sent here to do, and at the same time, with your help and support, we'll have a great relationship with the new coming administration to serve the people that we've come here to serve, which is really what this is all about. So I thank you again for your faith in me. I'll need your help. I will lean on you heavy, and I will thank you in advance for being there. With that, I believe I have to go on with the meeting, Madam Chair, and at this time, it is the chair's responsibility to appoint committees. And I would like to appoint committees as follows. Councilwoman Natalia Rudiak, I would like to assign to you the Committee on Finance and Law. Councilman Daniel Lavelle, I'd like to assign to you the Committee on Public Safety Services. Councilwoman Teresa Cale Smith, I would like to assign to you the Committee of Public Works. Councilwoman Deborah Gross, I would like to assign to you the Committee on Land Use and Economic Development. Councilman Corey O'Connor, I would like to assign to you the Committee on Urban Recreation. Councilwoman Harris, I would like to assign to you the Committee of Performance and Asset Management. Councilman Daniel Gilman, I would like to appoint you to the Committee on Intergovernmental Services. Madam Chair, we have one that's, oh, I'm sorry, forgive me. Nope, I went out of order. You're right. And to Councilman Burgess, I would like to assign to you the Committee on Human Resources. The Committee on Hearings, as is the custom, is chaired then by the President of Council. At this time, too, I would also like to assign the committees of, the council members to the Board of Trustees of the Carnegie Library Institute, which includes the Carnegie Science Center as well. The President of Council serves on that board. I will continue to serve on that board. I would like to reappoint Councilwoman Natalia Rudiak to continue her service on the Carnegie Library Board. I would also like to appoint Councilman R. Daniel Lavelle to the board of the Carnegie Library, as well as Councilwoman Teresa Cale Smith. At this time, the chair entertains nomination for the election of President Pro Tem. Councilman Gilman.
Mr. President, it's my honor to nominate the Honorable Councilwoman Teresa Cale Smith.
Are there any other nominations? No, I don't. Do we take the roll call vote then? Thank you very much. With that nomination, Councilman Burgess. Aye. Councilman Gilman.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gross.
Aye.
Councilwoman Harris.
Aye.
Councilman Lavelle. Aye. Councilman O'Connor.
Aye.
Councilwoman Rudiak.
Aye.
Councilwoman Smith.
Aye.
Thank you. We also have presentation of papers, which is not necessarily the custom of this meeting, but we do have a piece of legislation to be introduced, and Madam Clerk, you will take that piece of legislation, and Councilwoman Teresa Cale Smith. Okay. Thank you. You'll read it? Thank you.
Councilwoman Smith presents Bill Number 5, a resolution to enact an early retirement incentive program for eligible full-time non-union employees.
Thank you. At this time, the chair would like to entertain a motion that the rules of the proceedings of council be adopted as the rules of this council. Second. All in favor? Aye. We have come to the completion of our program. We will be hosting a reception in the back council meeting room Everyone is welcome. I know everyone is excited about getting down to Heinz Hall in time, but please stop back, enjoy us for just a moment before we head out. At this time, we are going to close this meeting by asking Reverend Victor Grigsby, pastor of the Central Baptist Church, to offer the benediction. Pastor Grigsby.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Let us pray. O God, our eternal Father, may your blessings be upon our city and upon these council members who have been elected to lead this great city of Pittsburgh. May you direct them with all grace, love, mercy, goodness, and compassion, that through their efforts and diligent labor, their hands might be the extension of yours. Please grant each of them your wisdom, knowledge, and understanding as they grow, nurture, and care for the residents of our city. May they be reminded of their call to service and never neglect the duties of justice, equality, and liberty to which they have been charged. Allow them to embrace the diversity of our city without restraint and build the unity in our city with the persistent resolve to improve the quality of life for the marginalized, underserved, and the least of these. May your peace be with us all now, and your grace be with us in this life to fulfill the call of God that you have placed upon our lives, so that we may have grace to live in the life to come. In the name of God, our Creator and our Christ, amen.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We'll entertain a motion to adjourn this meeting. Second, all in favor? Aye. Thank you all so very much. Oh my God, where's the
First of all, it applies only to city employees, and what about unions and the rest?
So it applies to non-union employees. For union employees, it is a mandatory subject to bargaining. So that's just an important thing to note. And what this does is it grants 6 weeks of paid family leave to both men and women when they experience the birth of a child, the adoption of a child, or the fostering of a child.
And why did you decide to introduce this legislation? Have you looked at studies that say this is a good idea?
Oh, absolutely. There's just such a wealth of knowledge out there that talks about why paid family leave is good for families. First of all, children whose parents have received paid family leave are shown to have higher educational achievement, higher IQ scores, lower teen pregnancy, and even higher earnings over their adult lifetime.
All for 6 weeks of early bonding with the child?
Yes, absolutely, because what happens is that there's an improved nursing, there is shortened hospital stays, and also what happens is that mothers are much more likely to experience wage increases over time if they're given paid leave.
Because
and then
they're happier employees, or what?
They're happier
they work
employees.
harder?
Well, actually, what happens is that oftentimes when parents don't have paid leave, they might choose to eventually not come back to work. So what happens is this can actually show retention and talent and experience and knowledge of employees. And 54% of mothers who actually take paid leave experience higher wage increases over their lifetime.
You've obviously studied this, and you think it's a good piece of legislation. It is passed, is that correct?
It has passed. I'm proud to say that it has passed 9-0.
What is it going to cost the city?
Well, what's interesting is because we're talking about non-union employees, there's a minimal impact on the budget because we're simply paying out what is already outlaid in the budget for an employee's salary. There aren't necessarily minimum staffing levels for the employees that we're talking about, so again, we're just paying out what employees are already being paid.
Do you see this as a tip of an iceberg? For instance, will the private sector follow in your footsteps if it's proven to work and to be a good idea?
Yeah, I absolutely hope so. I mean, I've already received calls from other municipalities that are interested in passing similar legislation.
You're leading the region then.
Absolutely. I mean, that's what we're trying to do. You know, there's been other examples that when Pittsburgh has passed good legislation, we've led the way for the county, for other municipalities, and even for the private sector to do the right thing.
So I wonder, have you talked with anyone in the private sector, and are they resistant to this, particularly small businesses that it might impact more than a huge corporation?
Well, what's interesting is that there are a lot of small businesses that do offer this to their employees. Because
here in this area?
There are. I mean, because of the more family-like atmosphere that sometimes these small businesses have. You know, I haven't necessarily reached out to any of the large employers or anything. I've been really just working hard to pass this legislation on the city end, but I do look forward to an expanded discussion. I want to thank you for having me on the show to really bring attention to this issue.
Now, what have mothers told you about this?
Oh, I mean, it's fantastic. We actually just had our first baby being born, believe it or not, in the past week, whose parent will be able to take advantage of this. So it's fantastic.
Forgive me, but the cynic in me, and in the articles I've read about this, say that you've gotten a lot of support from unions, financial support to run your campaigns, and that they think that this is a good idea and that you might be pushing it for that reason. What do you say to that?
Well, again, this actually doesn't, unfortunately, it doesn't apply to union employees because it is subject to bargaining for those union employees. So I wish this is based on the law. So I wish the law could be different. I wish we, you know, could apply it across the board, in fact, but it applies to the non-union employees.
Okay, so where do we go from here? It's enacted, it's effective immediately, and the first person who is going to be able to take advantage of this is going to take advantage of it. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is absolutely correct. I should mention that I am the state director of the Young Elected Officials Network, so I have counterparts in places from Erie to Bethlehem to Allentown, and so I look forward to having that discussion with these municipalities as well about the fact that they can implement this too.
Why did you restrict it to city employees, non-union employees? Two-part question. City employees first and non-union.
Well, first of all, according to the law, this is an additional benefit, and any additional benefits must be negotiated through collective bargaining units. So again, according to the law, I am restricted from, as a legislator, from legislating this across the board. Also, as a legislator in the city of Pittsburgh, I am restricted from passing any legislation that would affect the affairs of private businesses. So it's a long story, but there was a court case a few years ago that prevented city council from passing legislation that affects all city businesses. So other cities, for example, are passing sick day legislation. You might have heard about this, requiring that private businesses have sick day legislation. We're looking into how to do that in Pittsburgh, but again, it's a little bit dicey when you look at how we can apply citywide law to private businesses. So if I could, I would. So that's the story with that.
So do you expect, though, if this is proven over the next couple of years to be a benefit, according to those studies you've just quoted, do you think the private sector would think it's good policy and follow suit?
Well, I certainly hope so. You know, what's frustrating to me as a legislator is that we are expected to solve societal problems over time. You know, we're expected to curb youth violence. We're expected to stop drug use. We're expected to keep our communities safe. But oftentimes what we look at are short-term solutions like, you know, throwing more money to prisons or, you know, complaining about police-community relations. But what studies have shown is that when we actually look at the first 3 years of the life of a child, we can bolster that child's life so much to the point that it actually affects their adulthood. So, like I said earlier, they will be less likely to commit violent crimes, and they will be less likely to have teenage pregnancies. They will be less likely to be drug users. So that's why in my legislative portfolio, I've really pushed for things like paid family leave and universal pre-K because it really does affect the long term.
Why do you think it is, and this, I guess this appeals to this, that as a legislator you're expected to protect the community, but then there's so many people who say big government is in my business and we need them out? Did you get any of that kind of reaction when you first started talking about this legislation?
Probably. I mean, one of the funny things is that I try not to read the comments. I mean, I read some of them. Yeah, I read some of them. But I think, you know, a lot of times people have knee-jerk reactions to things without thinking them all the way through. And again, you know, I'm really trying to look at the long term here. I'm really trying to look at the long term, and I don't think that we as legislators do that enough. I should also mention that there is legislation in Congress that's looking to bolster the Family Medical Leave Act, which right now provides up to 12 weeks of unpaid leave. And that legislation, I believe it's called the Family Act, and that is sponsored by Senator Kirsten Gillibrand from the state of New York. So she's really been pushing that on a federal level to have paid family leave to bolster the Family Medical Leave Act. I should also mention that with the Family Medical Leave Act, at least before this legislation was passed in the city, it was required for city employees to exhaust all of their sick time and vacation time. And
well, that's downright unfair if you just want to expand your family, I think.
Well, and let's think about this. Let's think about this again in the long term. What happens is when parents have to expend all of their sick time and all of their vacation time, that's no time to take your kid to the doctor or to have, you know, other parental obligations. So you can start to see how a child's life is most definitely improved when their parents have the flexibility to attend to their parental obligations.
Were you at all surprised in President Obama's remarks that he, and he's following your lead, I guess, so to speak, that he starts talking about this after you've introduced this legislation?
Yeah, that was unexpected. That was really pleasant.
You
actually
got more pull at the White House than you think you have.
Exactly.
Huh?
Yeah. So what happened was I introduced this legislation. I think it was the 5th or 6th of January. It was the very first council day, and then or of the new session of this year. And then a week later, President Obama gives his State of the Union address, where he's talking about child care policies and paid leave. And you know, I posted on Twitter and Facebook that he's following Pittsburgh's lead, and it was very exciting. I wrote a letter to the president and to their Office of Local Affairs saying, hey, we looked at different cities across the country. We took their best practices, recreated this legislation. I'd be happy to share this with any other municipalities or cities that may be contacting you. We haven't received a response back. Still waiting, Mr. President.
Oh, I'm sure he watches this program every day, or at least his advisors do, and you're going to get a call back because of the statement you just made.
I hope so.
What do you think of the long-term overall impact this is going to have for city employees?
Well, I think that this is going to improve retention. Again, you know, studies across the board have shown that particularly mothers, but fathers too, who get paid leave are more likely to come back to work. And it's important to note that when we lose employees, that costs the city money. It can cost 25% to 200% of an employee's salary to hire a new employee, retrain a new employee.
So it's cost-effective for the city.
So it is cost-effective for the city. So
in fact, the head of personnel department said that they thought it would be a good thing and wouldn't cause an undue financial burden.
And that was that was wonderful to talk to. And I really want to thank Todd Siegel, who is the director of our personnel department, for being a great partner in all of this and doing the cost analysis. And again, finding that there wouldn't necessarily be a budgetary impact. You know, I want to mention something else here that I haven't mentioned before. And this
breaking news right here on PCNC's Pittsburgh Now. Go ahead.
You know, this goes for all employees and private sector employees. Again, studies have shown that having a child is the most expensive event in one's childbearing years. And I was surprised to learn that 13% of families who have a newborn actually become poor within the first month of having that child. And so when we talk about reducing poverty and we talk about reducing the effects of poverty, we really want to look at what happens when a child enters the world. It should be the happiest time of a parent's life, but unfortunately, we have too many families out there that are struggling to figure out whether they can pay the rent or they can pay, you know, for their children's diapers or formula or whatever. So it's really important that when we look at the childbearing years and we look at when parents have children, that we take care of that.
All right. City Councilwoman Natalia Rudiak is our guest. We're talking about legislation that she introduced and recently was passed that will give some city employees, non-union employees, paid leave, 6 weeks of paid leave. Do you think it's a good idea, paid leave, when the family is having a child? Do you think it's a good idea, another benefit that is unneeded? We want your opinions. Our number is 412-333-PCNC. I'm Chris Moore. This is Pittsburgh Now. Leave when the family has a newborn child. Were you surprised? You introduced this in January. Is this record time for this to pass? And it passed unanimously?
It passed unanimously. You know, I think we have a really good, solid, progressive council that wants to do the right thing.
None of that old infighting that they used to shout on cable?
Well, we have occasional tension, but, you know, it's that tension that produces results. Sometimes you got to have some tension to produce results. You can't. Yeah, you got to crack some eggs to make an omelet.
Yeah, but 5 members of council are up for re-election. They probably wouldn't want to vote against this. I could imagine what women voters would do if they...
Women voters and men. I mean, we live in a different era right now. I mean, men want to stay at home with their children as much as mothers do.
So how does this work? I'm married. My wife and I are having a child. Does she get the 6 weeks, and then can I come back as a father and say, I need 6 weeks to be there, or is it just one of the two?
Well, if both employees work for the city of Pittsburgh, which is pretty unusual, I don't know how many cases of that we have, then both employees would be afforded that 6 weeks paid leave.
Both employees?
Yeah, that's for mothers and fathers.
If they were both city employees.
If they were both city employees.
Okay. Oh, well, that sounds like a pretty good deal. When we talk about city employees, there's a common misconception, perhaps, that they are overpaid and sitting with their feet up on the desk and all that kind of stuff. But this is a special benefit that may attract more quality people to the city, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. There is this myth out there that city employees are somehow living high off the hog and, like you said, kicking their feet up on their desks. But honestly, when you look at our city employee talent pool, when you look at our attorneys, you look at our IT administrators, you look at our budget analysts, they are paid almost, you know, a third of what their private sector counterparts are paid. It is truly a public service when you look at what these public sector folks are being paid. So we need these kinds of benefits to attract talent and that the millennials can bring to the table. It's actually it can be a real challenge. I've talked to our director of innovation and performance who's looking to hire IT analysts, and it's really difficult to compete with the private sector when the private sector is hiring you know, young kids out of CMU that can make $120,000 a year, and we can only afford to pay 30 or 40.
All right, let's go to the phones. 412-333-PCNC is our number. Andrea, hello.
Good morning.
Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning. Go ahead.
Hi, it's like a delay.
Well, turn your TV down and listen to us on the phone. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, I'm calling to say that I think that that's a great idea for anyone that's working. I'm glad that she was able to get her endeavor approved. My question is, and I think she just kind of touched on it, if private sectors will follow suit. The only thing similar to like helping parents with whether it's a sick family member or a new child is ASLAC. And I wonder why like a lot of companies don't offer ASLAC as well if they're not going to offer like paid leave for their employees.
Yeah.
Do you understand the question?
I think so. I think so. I mean, that's a really good question. I unfortunately can't necessarily speak for the private sector in that way. Maybe, Chris, you need to invite some HR folks from the private sector to talk about this and to talk about why they don't offer this to their employees.
We'll put the pressure on them, okay?
Put the pressure on them, please.
Okay. All right. Thank you for your call. Let's go to Joanne. Joanne, hello.
Hi. Well, I do approve of the paying for these employees. However, who does their work while they are absent on leave?
That's a good question.
That is
Who picks up the slack?
Question. So who picks up the slack are fellow employees. You know, this happens often. This actually would happen under the Family Medical Leave Act anyway, because under the Federal Medical Leave Act, employees can have up to 12 weeks of unpaid leave. So when that happens, again, we have fellow employees picking up the slack. And I should also mention, you know, this happens often, not just with Family Medical Leave Act. We have military reservists, for example, you know, that may leave for weeks or months at a time where other folks pick up the slack. So that is a temporary thing that would happen, and it, you know, it is what it is, and it's something that we do anyway.
Okay, I cannot let you leave without asking you about Undercover Boss and the role with Ms. Wagner and the mayor and where the money came from to pay these people and withholding funds from various organizations. What do you think of all of that?
It's so frustrating to me because there are so many other issues in our city that we really need to be talking about. Again, we need to be...
But Ms. Wagner is charged with protecting the taxpayers' money.
She is charged with protecting the taxpayer money, and I'm sure that there are, you know, so many investigations that could be done in the county, from looking at our foster care system to looking at the witness protection program. You know, there's so many other things that we could look at.
You think this is politics?
It might be a little politics. I don't want to speak for her, but
come on, be honest. What's your opinion?
Well,
is it just a political role between her and the mayor?
Well, we know that her and the mayor don't have the best relationship, right? And so there may be something to what you're saying.
That's as close as I can come to get you to say something about that. Any other pressing issues that you're looking at on City Council you'd want people to know about now?
Oh, goodness. Well, we have a new public safety program that was just recently rolled out, where we are looking to improve police and community relations, which I'm pretty excited about.
That's an issue that we'll probably talk to you later about. Thank you for being here, Councilwoman Rudiak. We really appreciate your expertise and what you're putting forward. Okay?
Thank you so much.
All right, I'm Chris Moore. This is Pittsburgh Now.